Excuse me? All right.
Hi everyone, welcome to the third session of workshops. I'm Niladri, a second year PhD student for those who don't know me. And we are glad to have with us Dr. Schaefer today, and she has been an NSSGRF fellow herself. She's gonna help you guys with your applications today. Welcome, Dr. Schaefer.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, so this is gonna be very informal, so please ask me questions. So Niladri asked me to come and talk about fellowships. The one I'm most familiar with is this GRFP as a recipient, not as a reviewer. I've never reviewed these, but this GRFP fellowship program is through NSF. It's designed to help students go to higher education. There are some eligibility requirements about being a citizen and a minimum number of grad school credits. So there are essentially two chances. If you are an undergrad, you can apply once as an undergrad and once in grad school. Otherwise, it's like if you have more than 3 semesters of grad credit, I think you're ineligible. So make sure you check that. Valerie might know, she's walked through the eligibility thing about your 3+2, so maybe you know.
So 3+2 is like its own category from what I checked. If you're in a fast track undergraduate program and receiving your master's, you're eligible. So the 2-year limit doesn't apply to us because you technically still haven't gotten your master's.
All right. So, okay. These are some slides. So I took from GRFP. This is where you can get the information. So yeah, what is this program? What are the review criteria? What are some strategies in preparing your statement? So the deadlines, if you are applying this year, Valerie, is October 20th for mathematical sciences. So the NSF, the way it works, I have another picture of it actually. I'll show after these slides. It has structure for different STEM fields, and math is one of them, and each one has their own deadline, and we're luckily the last one. We're the last ones on October 20th. Okay, so if you're planning, make sure you ask your letter writers in advance. Okay, so this is this little flyer. So yeah, so these are the eligible major fields of study. It's STEM. So if you want to go into medical, any sort of medical research that's not NSF, that's the NIH, I believe they have their own program like this. It's NIH tends to be more competitive, but higher reward. But again, that's the split between NIH and NSF. So the way the NSF works, it's a 5-year fellowship with 3 years of financial support for your PhD. Okay, the 3 years of financial support come in, I believe, I don't know if this is right. You'll get an annual stipend. This one's quoted at $34,000. So that's your 12-month stipend for 3 years, plus they pay your tuition and fees on top of it for $12,000. And here's some sort of graphics. It is pretty competitive, 12,000 plus applicants and only 2,000 offers. I think some of that is personally, I don't know if this is true. I personally feel some of that is inflated by programs that incentivize students to apply without very strong applications, if that makes sense. Some universities give you a small sum of money just for applying, because then it saves them money in the long run if they get one. Just like AP exams and stuff, some people just take it. Yeah.
When you get into a PhD, usually they fund you, like wherever you go. So how does that work?
Yeah, so the way it works, if you get this fellowship, you choose which years you're sort of on tenure and when, or I don't remember the word, how they call it, but you choose which years you want the money and which ones you don't. So for me, when I was a graduate student, I did what was most natural. It's most natural for statistics is you do TA when you're in class. you're not very research productive if you're doing classes. So my first 2 years I did my TA, and then 3 years I had this money. But that's something you would want to talk to your advisor about. Maybe they'll have money later to pay you on an RA your last year. I don't know. But for me, that was what made the most sense. So yes. So it's for graduate students. Okay. So this is applicable to anyone in here who ever thinks they'll ever apply to anything in the NSF at any stage in your career. These are the two things that NSF reviews: is intellectual merit and broader impacts. So intellectual merit, there's several slides, we'll get into it a little bit more, but how important is what you're proposing to advancing knowledge in this field, statistics, or across other fields? And broader impacts is the societal benefit. So intellectual merit is the knowledge, and broader impacts is how is this going to help other people get involved, maybe get involved in research or just impact their life. Okay. So here are some strategies. So the reviewer's job, so when you're applying, you will apply and it will get reviewed. The reviewers are they're basically just assessing your potential as a researcher. So whatever you actually propose, you do not have to do. Okay? So you want to shape it to align with your strengths. Okay, so if you've done work, in spatial before, you want to say you want to do that probably because that's where your strengths are right now, but it doesn't constrain you at all. I don't think I did anything specific on my proposal. And review applications from individuals. So yeah, I didn't make these slides, so I don't know. So you're reviewed based on, again, your potential, and you want to have this comprehensive, holistic approach, and you want to have a balanced consideration of all the components of your application. This is what you're going to be reviewed on. So you're going to be, there's two components: the personal statement, the research proposal, and then you have your letters, you have your transcripts, etc. Okay, so how do they assess these things: intellectual merit and broader impact? You want to provide evidence to support that you have a good educational and research record, leadership, outreach, service activities, and get creative here. If you've never done research before, there are other types of activities that you can say sort of align with these skills. Maybe you help in your community with something, create, I don't know. I don't have good examples, but your individual competencies and experiences, future plans, and other attributes. So the future plans is like, what you want to convey is, I have some potential to do this work, and doing this work is going to get me to where I want to go. And so you need to say this, where you want to go. NSF likes if you say you want to stay in academia and teach the youths. Again, and you can lie, okay? Like, it's okay. Not a lot, but you can say, to the best of your knowledge, this is something that appeals to me, okay? Yeah. What use has the applicant made of the available opportunities? So, right, if you've had some obstacles in your life, like challenges, you want to highlight that, but it should be in a way that makes sense for how you're describing yourself, So for example, when I was writing mine, one thing that my mentor we talked a lot about was about women in STEM, but I ultimately didn't feel like it really added to my story that I was a woman in STEM. So I actually never explicitly wrote about that, but for some other people that might be like a strong part of how they sort of grew up as a researcher. So that might resonate more with them. And I will say they do you want to show that you're great, but you want to also maybe be a little humble. So don't just highlight all of your wins, highlight some of your challenges as well. Does that make sense? Because a good researcher will have a lot of challenges they have to overcome. Okay. Okay, so these are the components of your application. You'll have a personal statement. So first you just have to log on to the portal. It's, I think, research.gov now. So you go on research.gov, you make a profile and you input all of this information, your education, your work experience, what major field of study, honors, awards, publications, etc. Then you will write a 3-page personal statement. So for our first years, and if you are writing a PhD application, this is very similar to how you might write your personal statement for a PhD application. This is telling about your relevant background of why you have the potential to do the work, and why the funding to do the work will get you where you want to go, and why the place you want to study is the right place to do that. Okay, so if you're proposing to work here at A&M, right, I'm going to keep picking on Carrie here. If she's going to do a spatial statistics proposal, well, she has obvious names that she can call out on her proposal, Dr. Song, and I guess Trevor and me and whoever. Okay, and then you'll have a 2-page research statement. So this is a proposal. This you can kind of go 2 ways. So I know Isaac got a fellowship. So his proposal, he had more experience than when I applied for mine. His was very specific, I would say, and technical, where mine was a little bit more like, I want to study this system. My proposal was on interactions between individuals and animal movement models and point processes. So I conveyed that I knew what methods I would be working with, but that was kind of like the upper bound. Where I would say I feel like yours was maybe more technical than that. You had even like prior, like exploratory analysis.
Yeah, I think that's mostly just a concrete plan, concrete measures of success. This is exactly something I can do. Here's how I can show that it was successful.
Yeah.
But they get the idea that you have some idea what you're talking
Yeah, so we'll talk about the research statement, like how you might get ideas for that. And then the reference letters of rec, okay? Those are usually very important for these kinds of things. So it says you can provide up to 5. So if you want to make sure they're going to say good things about you. So if you don't have 5 people that will, like if you only are confident you like have 3 strong letter writers, stay with 3. I think I only use 3. But if you have 5, it won't hurt as long as they say something really good. Okay. Don't just ask for more because you can, just make sure they're gonna help you. Okay, so the intellectual merit, this is usually the easier place to sort of fill out. And when you write these, you will want to section it and like have a section that says intellectual. You want to make it easy for the reviewers to see what you're saying. So you want to use things like bold text where you want to highlight things, or italics, or etc. So these are different types of evidence you can use in this section. So demonstrations of your intellectual ability, maybe you volunteered in a research lab, maybe you've got some academic scholarships, etc. If you've ever planned and conducted research, if you've worked as a member of a team or independently on a project, if you've ever volunteered, maybe what do you have this undergrad, all these events you do with the high schooler, the kids. Yeah. you're a stat ambassador, right? Yeah. And and then and then obviously the importance of what you're proposing to do, how it's going to sort of impact your field. Okay, and you should have this intellectual merit in all of in your personal statement and your research proposal. Okay. And then broader impacts is usually a little bit harder to convey. You want to, everyone says the same thing usually, like, I will host a workshop or I will give a seminar. There are some very basic things that most people will say. But what they're looking for are activities you will take on that increase participation of these groups, some sort of outreach, increasing public knowledge. So maybe you're gonna have a blog or video blog, community outreach, collaboration across institutions or across fields. So I think actually one reason why like my proposal was perceived well was because you can indicate on your application that you have an interdisciplinary project. And so I think I put like 60% stat and 40% biology or something. And when you'll get your reviews back, and that was one thing they said they liked. So what I would say about this is just do that like personally feels right to you. You can't say you're gonna like write a book or something. Don't say something that is not possible. Okay, like you're gonna start a new scientific magazine at A&M, you know, but maybe you make, I don't know. You can get as creative as you want, but it has to seem doable. Does that make sense? I don't.
Similar to-
Yeah.
Having a concrete plan and a way of assessing.
Yeah, and yeah, and like I said, these criterion are for any NSF proposal. So we have people on campus that help faculty figure out how can you plug in and do these broader impacts. So I'm sure that we can get you connected with those people as well, to come up with some like activities or something. If you're doing the postdoc fellowship application, you might want to ask at that institution. Okay. This is sort of everything before, and it's better for both of these if it aligns with maybe something you mentioned you already did before. So stat ambassador, you just keep saying, I'm gonna do these activities. Like, I was a stat ambassador. This shows that I have done broader impact already. So when I'm proposing this activity, I already have experience. So does that make sense? Okay. Make sure your letter writer, if you're asking, most letter writers will be familiar with NSF criteria and will know to do this, but okay. This is for reviewer training. Okay, how do you prepare these things? So like I said, it's in October. October is the deadline, so you might not have as much time as you'd like. There's tons of advice online about timelines, how to structure it. I would say get someone who's going to read your statements. Okay, and don't wait till the last minute. Get as much feedback as you can. I know Bronny, Dr. Vidakovich would love to help anybody. He was, he was a former program officer at NSF, so he knows all the ins and outs, and he pushes lots of this stuff. Yeah. All right. So for the personal statement, I think one natural way, and this is how I did it, is you can just basically tell your story of how you got to where you were as a researcher. You could do it maybe in different ways and highlight different skills and then do it maybe asynchronously, but I think most people kind of like tell a story. I think mine was like, I used to go camping a lot when I was a kid and all that, so that stuff. Yeah. And then we talked a little bit about career aspirations. And yeah, you want to highlight all of your experience. And again, this can be anything from just like community things, places you're active in your community, to actual research experience, to some coursework, although I think that wouldn't be as strong as a experience because everyone does coursework, right? Unless it's something like very unique, like a year-long project, or I mean, because like yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the research statement. Like I said, you want to want to write it in some sense. So you want it either to be something you're familiar with or something you're passionate about. You want it to, if you don't really have ideas, you can get ideas by looking at review articles like in Science or Nature, or I don't know what you're interested in. If you're interested in methods, maybe you don't look in Science and Nature, JASA, those sorts of things. So those review papers usually are written in non-technical language, but they have calls for this is what we need people to work on now. And this also goes back to if you can have a faculty mentor that could help you, and don't be scared to ask somebody. Okay. Or if you are, I can help you facilitate anything like that. And so you want to communicate your idea and your approach. This is like what Isaac was saying. You want to be specific enough that it seems doable in your 5 years as a fellow. Explain your plan and methods. What do you expect to learn? Also, I think what challenges do you expect to face? Like, I want to do this interacting movement model, but as I increase the number, like from 2 individuals to 3-way interactions to 4-way, that's gonna like get higher and higher dimensions really fast. So things like that. And then how this research carries on to what you want to do next. And so, yeah, so this is meant for non-specialists, but it will be within math. It's usually within that scientific group you propose to, but it might not be maybe a statistician necessarily. Yes, and clearly in separate headers, identify those 2 categories. Okay, this is only 2 pages, including everything. Like if you have references, if you have an image, and follow the rules on font size, margins, all of that, because if you put your font size too small, they'll throw it out. Okay. Okay. All right. So that was basically it about the GRFP. There is tons of more information online about this. I just wanted to share. Did I want to share anything else? There is a postdoc version of this that is essentially a mini, hold on, I need to open another. Right here. This is the program solicitation. So unlike the GRFP, I didn't share my screen. New share. Okay, so unlike the GRFP, the postdoc one is specific under the group. So this is the mathematical sciences specific postdoc fellowship. This again, though, I think has a US citizen eligibility requirement. But what I want to say about this is sort of a mini full proposal that if you do become a professor, this is like a mini version of this. So this doesn't have a personal statement, and it's more like a standard NSF proposal, but it's only 5 pages. I think a standard one is like 25 pages. So you need to find your postdoc advisor. Okay, reach out to them, make sure they want to do this proposed work with you. And it's essentially the same sorts of things we talked about with the GRFP. Make sure it's impactful, aligns well, has the potential. It's 5 pages. That's just the proposal. They have separate pages for the references, and then you have to do, it's like a biographical sketch, a 1-page project summary, which is a standard NSF grant submission type. And then there are fellowships at university level and levels as well that maybe have less eligibility nationality requirements. I know that Minnesota has one. I applied to one. Stony Brook has one with this Computational Data Science Institute. Michigan has one, I'm pretty sure, this LSA fellowship. I don't think so. Well, it depends on the institution, I would think. So let's just look up Minnesota's. If I can move this here. Minnesota postdoctoral fellowship. All right, so here's one. Let's see. Okay, right here. Presidents, is this it? I don't know, but yeah, here we go. So Minnesota has this one. Eligibility. Oh, here we go. So yeah, so Minnesota says visa sponsorship is possible. So you can look at institution level ones for postdocs. Yeah. Getting a fellowship it's kind of like maybe a double-edged sword. It's interesting. So I enjoyed having my fellowship as a grad student. The difference I would say to someone being on an RA is I had sort of more freedom, and I had to I wasn't told by the RA like this is what we're expecting. You're not completely constrained, right? You have some creative flexibility, but you do have deliverables you need to meet. With the NSF, I could freedom, right? So if your personality, it looks good on a CV, but you want to make sure you're supported in how you get the work done and make sure you stay on track. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because make sure you pick a good advisor. Okay, because there are always horror stories out there. If you get a fellowship and you go to work with someone, they're not getting paid, only you are, right? So if they're not maybe the best person, they might not give you a lot of their time. Does that make sense? I mean, you will benefit them by writing papers and that sort of thing, but it's a little bit different than grant pressure, I think, on a faculty member. But I care about all of you and I want you all to succeed. Yeah. So I think, yeah, the number one question on that form was how to make your research statement stick out. And I think it's kind of what you want to make sure it's relevant. So I think making it clear you know what they're calling for in the literature in your field that you're proposing. You can get creative in some way, but in the end, there is some randomness to this, right? So I think there was another set of slides and it said like, we can't give you advice to succeed with probability 1. Okay. But I think the best way is to get a faculty mentor and have them read your stuff. And I know for sure Dr. Vidakovich will help. I'm willing to read proposals. Yeah. So yeah, what time is it? What other questions do we have? Let me see what else was on here.
Many people read your essays as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Also have people from the math department here. Make sure that they don't have to know exactly what you're talking about, but they should get an idea. Because the people who are reviewing it might be experts in algebra.
Yeah.
They may not really know much about it.
Let me show this tree so I can show the what happened to my hair? Where did it go? Oh, here we go. So if you're interested in other, this is the so these are all of the fields in the math section. So statistics is only one. So like Isaac was saying, you could have someone from any of these fields potentially reviewing either of those applications. So yeah, we're in, what is it, mathematical and physical sciences, division of mathematical science. So each of those 6 blue ones at the top 5 have their own deadline. So if you, as Valerie said, if you're submitting to engineering, I think they have the first deadline. Yeah. Yeah. There is a sort of repository of old GRFP applications. Most of them I think are not in math. Statistics doesn't get that many in general because I don't think that many people apply. I think it's maybe now in the 20s or 30s. I don't know. I think when I got it, it was like 15 people in stat, but not that many people I think applied. I think ASA publishes who gets it in stat. I don't know. Yeah, very few people in stat apply because we are lucky that we usually have our grad programs are guaranteed funding in some way. Not every field is like that, unfortunately. That's why you picked this one, right? There's one other thing. Oh, let me go back here to my.
That's also a reason why it's important to make sure your stuff is understandable to people outside of staff, because from reading my reviews, certainly one of the reviewers knows staff ever and didn't really know what I was talking about.
So this is a blog. I can send you all of these resources, but here's a repository of people's proposals. I think that's sometimes what people do for their broader impact is they make these websites and they help other people get GRFPs. I will say, yeah, on mine. So I mentioned one positive thing from my reviewers. One negative thing was they said I didn't have a lot of leadership or something experience. I don't know. I also had a friend apply and this was maybe like a fluke thing. Our transcripts at Colorado State, if it was a lab, it had like, it didn't say the grade. It said like S, I don't know what it said, some other letter. And the reviewer thought that she had like withdrawn from all of these courses, and they were like, they took that very negatively against her. That they just didn't know how to read her transcript. So, no, I don't think so.
Oh.
So I don't know. If there is, that was like a fluke thing, but if there is something you think that might be like a concern, it's better to address it and just say, this was a challenge, I overcame this, I improved. Maybe have your letter writer mention something like that. I don't know, but it shouldn't stop you. Yeah.
Really,
How's your experience going, Valerie? You want to share?
the application process?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's really difficult when you do so many things and you have to look back at the crevices and like the file cabinets of your brain, be like, did I do that? What did I do? Is there anything that I did that is important? And so so you have to like look for your CVs. CVs are really good for this. If you had a very long, well-written CV, very good. You are good. And if it's not well written, it's very hard. Because I look at my CV, I don't think was updated, so I had to like really like look at my emails, see like, did I do that? Was I in that? When was that? Took a lot of searching, but everything else. Well, I feel like if you're applying to literally anything else, it's a lot of work, but like you just kind of copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. and
Yeah, so
anything else.
yeah, one thing I've been telling Valerie and what I did is I wrote this at the same time I was applying to grad school, so I just like used my personal statement, overlapped a lot of it.
I don't know. Isaac actually won, so I but you should ask him.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know where he is on here.
well, this is self-reporting.
Tried to submit it to this website, like I said, never. So maybe.
Maybe he didn't update it yet.
Looks like, yeah, they haven't done.
And I've never used this grad cafe, but I know some people like it.
If you want my reviews, papers, whole thing, I listen or Dr. Schaefer.
I think you already have it, yeah.
Yeah. I guess this one might be relevant. Sci.
Yeah, looks like 20 something,
That one
25.
by Kyle, I read quite a few times.
Kyle, there he is. Wait.
Wait.
Where's he going?
Scroll down. It's
just
not
saw-
in
This one?
chemistry, yeah.
Why?
I don't remember, I just remember going through. You just picked it.
Let me just,
Can we control F?
I read lots of these, like I read so many of them.
I only read, I think, 2 or 3, but this is gonna be on this is not gonna be on this one. Let me show mine just so you can get a sense of like the oh my gosh. What I mean by the styling and the headers and stuff.
They give you the required things, like, I think when you start your application, they're like, if it's not like this, don't even bother.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reviewers want everyone to get an award because they're nice people. So they are looking for ways to reject your paper. Like they're not so much trying to like rank them as they are trying to be like, which one of these can I most easily disqualify so that I make easier choices. So don't give them a reason to disqualify you.
Yeah.
Font size,
Well, the number one thing
margin
is, yeah,
size.
you mess up formatting. If you mess
Yeah.
up formatting, a
It's
reviewer
over.
never even looks at it. It just-
Stress.
Also, if your letter writers don't submit their letters by the deadline. So-
The letters are due 5 days afterwards.
Yeah, like
after the deadline.
October
25th?
20.
Don't
Yeah.
wait. Have-
Oh,
have them
27?
submit it earlier.
This was my proposals, but so you can kind of see like how
So
I
nice.
tried to use different fonts to like highlight things. I don't know. And I ended up not really doing any of this in my dissertation, but yeah, so you're gonna call out like where you're gonna go, who's gonna be there.
Have you talked to those people at that point?
Yes, this
Okay.
was, yeah. I was already in my first semester
Oh, I see.
at Missouri. And then yeah, so you'll have your sections. What did I even say on this? I said I would make an art package. I've never made an art package, but
This one's very different,
exactly, yeah.
but you didn't use all 2 pages.
Nope. I didn't. I had some space.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, I also had never used tech before, so that's why it's in Word.
Don't use words. Heck, if it accidentally inserts like an invisible character somewhere to make it look pretty, then it'll just get projected, so word is safe.
Word noted. Word.
If you are going to include like a picture, make that in, like, make it nice, like with R or Python or text or whatever. But
Then insert it through Word.
yeah, but for actual word processing, use Word. As the Word doc template, as long as you just stick to their template, we can.
As it comes in after being accepted, how does that work?
Yeah, what's it called again when you don't get the money? You have to like designate, yeah, when you're gonna get paid.
Yes, it's on reserve.
Oh, on reserve, yeah.
I'm on tenure. So the A&M Fellowship Office doesn't deal with a lot of GRFPs because our school, it's disproportionately few.
Huh.
So
Weird.
I have a very, very long email chain with one of the fellowship coordinators arguing about a piece of evidence in my favor that literally said exactly what I was trying to tell her. But anyway, just here or there. Other than that, it's nice.
Yeah, you do have to do annual reporting, but it's very minimal. It's like, did you go to your classes? Did you go to conferences? Like that sort of stuff. It's interesting. Yeah, Missouri had a very strong, unfortunately, I think she retired. I can't find any of her materials, but there was a woman at Missouri that just had like, maybe it can be me. She had like a cottage industry of like doing these workshops with undergrads every year. And she had tons of resources. And I read her stuff like before I even went there. So there was a lot more, but I was the first one in stat there, but we have a small department. I think a lot of them were in biology. Yeah.
And it's much fewer than other schools, even which are much smaller. Like UT, I think got 60 this year, rather than A&M got 6.
What?
Oh.
So,
It's been weird.
well, because there's not like a strong, there's not a cottage industry of
Yeah.
people telling you to do it. So a lot of people just don't. Like also the number of applications within our university is really low. compared to
Yeah.
other schools, so it makes sense that the number of recipients is also low. So apply. Number one, very important. Yeah.
And there is a second, so you can get the fellowship, but you can also get an honorable mention, and that's also good for an academic CV. So, and I think you get, not that you need it here, but they have like an NSF supercomputer that you can get access to if you get honorable mention.
You can actually, the way that system works now is you can use the like NSF credits that they use for their supercomputers and redeem them here.
Oh,
And you get the equivalent of, I think, 260,000 hours on the HPRC.
oh,
So-
nice. Yeah,
Lots of supercomputer credit.
I never used that. Missouri's supercomputer was free for all computing. I still use it. Yeah. Are there any questions about anything else? Not about like anything? What other skills do you want to learn?
I recommend it if you're eligible for this to apply for it. and I'm happy to read your
Yeah.
stuff. You don't have to listen to me, but
Yeah. Yeah.
It's he's like.
Mhm.
I'm going.
yes.
No questions?
Those
What did you tell me you learned
sections are
about when we were in my office?
papers should address both criteria.
Oh,
You
no.
said,
I'm trying to remember. You're like, ask me questions.
oh, about the letters, yeah. I would ask for letters now. Yeah,
Told me to ask 1 month before they're due.
yeah,
which is-
yeah.
So. For sure, my dad's best year
Mhm.
has actually been a reviewer for the success
Oh, yeah.
program before. But when I asked him about this, he said in his opinion, it's sort of hard to do it if you're coming out of
Is that
your first year math student because right then that would help is like
The grad and
give a
master.
good, very good idea of what you're gonna do and how you're gonna work with.
Mhm.
If you're a master's student and you go to a different place for your PhD, you don't really
See, now would be
get the
good
chance to
because if
like
we
get to know
find
people and
next
really
year, Then. When
get
you
a
flood.
grasp on your research.
Well, I guess.
So
I guess I just wanted to know your opinion on
Um, it would be
I
nice if not finished,
think you don't have to go,
but now
like,
I
you
just
can
know
transfer
I'm
this as long as it's within the accredited universities.
it. Okay.
So like if you say you're going to go to A&M and do this research, but then you ultimately go somewhere else, I don't think that matters.
Another fellow.
So you do want to be able to have,
No,
like, say
there's
somebody.
enough-
So I agree with that, like, and you wanna like probably tell that person that you
Yeah.
put them on there, but
This one
I don't think you are
gives you interest
like
rates.
bound to
Okay.
that institution
Like
Okay, that makes sense.
that you say, yeah.
It's,
Makes sense.
Yeah.
yeah,
Alright,
yeah,
I
it's
just-
just one that I
again,
was
he-
told by Dr.
That,
Daniel. about.
that's just what my dad told me and he does.
I'm not familiar.
Are you in the 3+2?
Yeah, it's like one of the
No,
other.
I'm
big
a,
schools.
True masters,
So
okay.
that's sort of why I'm,
This one will.
It's
I
why
think
I'm
those are
asking.
Yeah,
required.
so you're in your first year right now?
this is my second year.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, so this would be your one chance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chance,
Yeah,
you know, I'm thinking about it because I.
Yeah.
am
Microsoft, I
thinking
think,
of applying
has
for
it
PhDs, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out
The
how many
private company
fellowships
ones
I should apply to as well.
yeah.
I guess, do you know any other fellowships for like PhD students outside of like
Like
this
also-
one?
Well, so there's the NIH one, I don't know, there are some,
Yeah, here you go. So
just like with
I
the
think-
postdocs, there are sometimes institution level ones.
Okay.
I think usually how those would work is when you apply,
PhD.
they nominate you.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah,
Thank you, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, if you have
Oh, no.
somewhere in mind, yeah, I don't think they can make you go where you propose you're going.
Don't matter.
Yeah,
Let's go.
yeah,
Then yeah.
yeah.
You're probably pro with her. It's American Indian. Everything. Dude, automatic on the shit.